welcome to today's presentation on pipe depth reports with CTC Pipe Planner. My name is Brian Lewandowski. I am the Civil Product Manager here at CTC Software, and I will be giving the presentation. Why do we need pipe depths? Let's answer that question first. What are we talking about? Why do we need them? We want to understand how deep pipe is to be buried or installed to help estimating costs with estimation. Deeper pipe, obviously, more work to put it in, it costs more. We want to understand what that's going to be. We want to certainly minimize depth where it makes sense. We want to also ensure that minimum covers are met. Yet this data that we can get out of Civil 3D currently leaves a little to be desired. We can get a start and end cover, for example, of pipes. We can get minimum and maximum cover. What about how much of the pipe is at this depth, or how much of the pipe is at that depth, and so on? You know, so these values, min and max, start and end, we can generate Civil 3D tables and so forth with them, but they're not really giving us what we are after. So what do we need? We might sum these things in a variety of different ways, but we want to understand how much pipe is at a given depth. And it might be every foot, so 7 to 8 feet, 6 to 7 feet, 5 to 6 feet, for example. How much length of pipe is at that given depth? Maybe you want to know at every half foot or every half meter. Or maybe you just want to know everything from 0 to 10 and everything from 10 to 20. Okay? You have control on all of that. So Pipe Planner, this is a new tool we released just a couple months ago. Very excited. It's a very robust tool. And it works kind of like this. You can load any number of pipe networks in your drawing. And from the left table, we can choose from pipes and structures to add into our middle table. We then can build from any of the properties that are inside that table, or excuse me, inside those parts, we can assemble those in any order to a table in the middle. We can actually make changes like renaming the parts themselves or changing the description to have the tool swap parts for us. Or maybe we just want to assemble a custom table and export it to Excel. If you use multiple networks to put your designs together, you can load multiple ones and generate a table for a single table for multiple networks. We have detailed control on the formatting, not just column order and row order and sorting, but precision and all this kind of stuff. There's settings behind the scenes and options here to control how all of that looks. And then whatever you assemble in your middle table here can be exported to Excel. Now, there's a lot of different workflows with Pipe Planner. Pipe Planner, for example, will let you take this out to Excel, make edits there, perhaps through an analysis or anything like that, and then import that spreadsheet back into Civil 3D to update your pipe network. But in this case, we're going to focus on just generating ports, just an extraction of data from our pipe networks to generate a particular type of report. So let's take a little time in Civil 3D and I'll show you how this works. I think you're going to be surprised. It's quite easy, in fact. So what I've got here is a drawing with a couple pipe networks. I've got a plan view and then a profile view of the main centerline pipeline of the storm system. And in the Sim Project Suite, that's what Pipe Planner is part of. A new tool, like I said, that we added just a couple months ago. It came out in the 22 release, and we've made some tweaks and improvements and some point releases since then. We're at a 22.0.2 release right now, so if you're not on that, be sure to update. And we've got two sub-commands here: edit, export pipe networks, and then import spreadsheet. That was that option where if you're trying to take edits from Excel and import them back in to update your pipe networks, you can do that. Our focus will be on using the primary function, the edit, export pipe networks tool. And let's take a look here. What do we get? Let me resize this a bit. This is Pipe Planner. We'll start right at the top here. I can choose which networks to be working with, and it just finds all the pipe networks in your drawing. As I turn them on, the parts within those networks appear in this left table down here. Okay. If I turn on storm and sanitary, we get all the pipes and structures, all the parts listed in here for me to potentially work with. And we're focused on our storm network for today. So there's 3 default columns here: the name, the description, and the network that we're working with. Okay. The middle grid, as I had shown you in PowerPoint, is where we assemble that custom report, that table, what have you. And this is what we're after with Pipe Planner. It's a very flexible way to build tables of any format that you might need. Now, what pipes or structures or parts do we want to work with? There's a lot of ways to do this. I've got 3 tabs up here. Do I want to deal with all pipes and structures? Do I want to deal with just structures or just pipes, perhaps? I can choose any number of my parts by press and select, control selection, and there's a little arrow here, and now this commits them to the middle table. Now, right now, there's a default column, the ID. This is, in fact, the handle in Civil 3D. But let's go ahead and add a couple of the properties from the right column here. So just like the left column where we add parts, on the right side, we add properties. Similar little arrow buttons here where I can drop those in. Now, at any point, I can remove any number of parts. There's also a double arrow here. This will add all the parts that exist in this or that remain in this left side table. So if I click this, it adds all pipes and all structures. Now, what if I want to work with just pipes? And go to the pipe tab, and when I click the double arrow there, it's bringing in just my pipes. What if I don't want to dump the whole thing in my table? What if I want some control over it? Okay, again, you can select in here, but maybe it's more of a visual thing for you. You want to pick them in the drawing. There's a pick, select parts and drawing option here. And if you notice, it prompts you in the command line, select structures and pipes in plan or profile views. So I can just manually start selecting parts, or I could just choose all, or perhaps it's a certain pipe run or a number of pipe runs I want to choose, a number of different laterals, what have you. I'm going to choose pipe run, so I can type PI for my sub command, and now it's prompting for a start structure, this one right here. And then the next network part, and we'll choose all the way down here. And if you can see it, it's highlighting all the parts in between those 2 selections. So just a different way to select parts to be added to our report. Now, you'd seen me add name and description. All the other parts, or rather the other properties, it's quite simple. Depending on what you want in a report, you can just grab these over here, dump them in. Okay, if you didn't want one, you can highlight it and choose the right arrow button. You can also just remove the column. Now, you notice some of these values here, these are all white in color, these cells. If that comes through and go to webinar, this one is grayed out. That means we cannot edit this, it's read only. And there's a lot of read only fields. For example, the pipes start easting and northing, okay? While we can edit things in here and we can push them back in the drawing just by clicking apply, some of the values we can't edit. Yet we might be just trying to create a report, and in that way, it's just about extracting the information. Perhaps I need start and end structure in my pipe depth report. Simply add those. And again, those are read-only fields. If we wanted to renumber our parts, we could work with structures and then we'd be able to renumber those. But like, take our pipes, for example, just a simple process of renaming some pipes. I can do that in here. So the selection order that you select of a pipe run in the drawing, you can do that and then use some Excel type press and drag options to renumber those parts. If I hit apply, this is going to write directly to the drawing. Okay, so just giving you a couple examples of different ways we might use Pipe Planner. But let's continue on with a pipe depth report. I've got some of the values I want there. And if I scroll through here, look at all the other things I can extract from here. Let's take the minimum maximum cover, for example. 2D length from center to center, we can add that in there. Now, the precision of all this stuff, if you look in options, we've got capitalization, precision options here, the decimal character and the digit grouping. Okay, it's set to period, comma. We can reverse that. Okay, all of that is set in the options form. Now, what about pipe depths? If I take a look at my example back here, I want to know what length of pipe is at a given depth, because that costs a different amount. So there's a property in here. This isn't something you would see natively in Civil 3D, but it's under the calculated fields category. And we've got pipe depth at interval. Now this is a lot of properties over here, so you might look at this and go, man, there's so much to choose from. You're right, every single property that exists in your pipes and structures can be pulled through in this way. But we give a nice little filter up here so you can start typing just a word like depth, and it filters down to just the property you care about. Now, when I add this into the column here, let's remove a few of these, for example. Okay, when I add this into here, the tool is going to make some calculations. Let's go ahead and click the add button. And what it did is it analyzed all the pipes in my selection set, and it found what lengths of pipe are at different depth ranges. I've got 6 to 7, 7 to 8, and so on. And it generated columns to account for all the different depth ranges across my entire pipe selection set. And it quantified them for me. Now, how does it do this? How does it follow this? We again have options in here that dictate how this gets broken up. Okay, so let me just clarify again. The header is maybe a little confusing. Length, depth 6 to 7. So for a given pipe, 8 here, it's 187 feet long from center to center. Okay, of that 187 feet, 107.5 is between the 6 to 7 foot depth range, 64.5, and then 15.35. So the sum of this adds up to the 187, the total length of my pipe. So it's dividing it out. Now, how does it divide it out? How does it know to go 6 to 7 and 7 to 8? What if I want to divide it every half a foot, or maybe every 3 feet, or every half meter, what have you? There's another set of options here in the options form for pipe depth calculations. The first one here is to measure from. Okay, what is depth? Okay, depth is from the reference surface of the pipe that's assigned to the pipe to whichever option on the pipe you choose. The top, okay, do you want to quantify by the bottom of the pipe? Okay, however you might quantify it, we'll measure that depth and then break it out into different columns in this way. So top would be like based on cover, right? Or if you think of depth as the very bottom, that's the outside, not the invert, but the outside bottom of the pipe. And then the range increment. So this is set to 1. That's how we're getting 1 feet here. So if I set this to 2, watch what's going to happen when I click OK here. We're not going to get depth ranges every 1 foot. We'll get them every 2 feet. 6 to 8, 8 to 10, and so on. Okay. Switch that back to 1, and it updates. Now, as you add a few more parts in here, it accounts for those. It generates additional columns as necessary. and pushes those into my table. Now, how are we doing this? Okay, let's take a look at that second option here, the sample interval. This is set to 0.5. What does this mean? 0.5. If I hover over the little help button here, it says, this is the value to be used to determine how often Pipe Planner will calculate depths along the length of a pipe. This is basically your level of accuracy. So 0.5 means, if I close out of this, what Pipe Planner is going to do is every 0.5 feet along the length of this pipe, or 0.5 units, whether if you're working in metric, it's going to check the depth from top to the reference surface. Okay, it's going to make many different checks on that, find that depth, and then it's going to basically drop the lengths from one depth to the next into different buckets. Those buckets are the columns that we generated right here. So this is just a level of accuracy setting. If you set it to point, well, we put a limit on it. You can only go so deep with it, or excuse me, so detailed with it. 0.1, meaning every 1/10 of foot or 1/10 of meter, it will check the depth. Okay, that is an incredible amount of calculations. If it's a 100-foot long pipe, we're checking every 0.1. So we get very detailed lengths that exist in each depth range. I'm going to hit OK to this, and you're going to see it recalculate. So that's about 1,000 or more calculations for just this set of pipes here. And what you see is that the level of accuracy dial in a little bit more, really more detailed than we probably actually need. So if I set this to 1, it's only going to check every 1 foot. And so most of these values you're going to see as whole numbers then, except for the remainder one, which should be the end of the pipe here. And if I set it to, say, 5, it's just checking every 5 units along the pipe. And then most of my values will round to the nearest 5. So reasonable values, probably 1 or maybe 5 or maybe 0.5, kind of depends. But if you're dealing with a really long pipeline and you have 100 pipes in here and the depths range wildly, it's a ton of calculations. And in fact, Pipe Planner will prompt you and say, hey, this is a lot of calculations. This might take some time. And by time, I mean you might have to wait 10, 15 seconds for it to crunch all the calculations. All right, once you've assembled your report, you can do whatever you want with it. You can just view it in here, or we can go to Excel with it. Now, the other thing we might want to do is save what we've generated here, right? This might be my standard report format for one client, but another client gets it a different way. So we've introduced a concept called templates here. So once I've built a particular layout in here, I can save this out to a Pipe Planner template. So it's called as Pipe Report 2. Template save. That's an external file. It's actually just a JSON format. Now that template can be loaded again in this drawing or in other drawings. And I'll give you an example here. If we just clear everything out of here, and so I use the double arrow over here, remove all the parts. Over here, I remove all the properties. Okay. I can take that template, and by the way, these templates are just reading from a path that is set right here in options. Okay. It defaults to a user app data folder, but you can put it on a server where everyone could get access to these templates. So I can choose my template, I click load. It's going to find all the properties in there, okay? And it's even going to load the parts if you're running that template in the same drawing the template was created in, okay? So for example, if I went to another drawing, those are different parts in that other drawing. This is the handle of the pipe or the structure. Now these don't play into our pipe depth reports. It's just a default column there so that if we're round tripping to and from Excel, we have something to track to. But in that case, if I load another drawing, all the columns would populate, and then I just simply have to add the parts I need, and my table report would be done. Now I can come over here. I can choose where should I export this to. Let's make a new Excel file right away. I'll call this pipe depth report. Double click on that. And what do we want to do? We can write to an existing sheet, or we can create a new sheet. Let's start first with create a new sheet. I've got options to include headers, or if I was dealing with both pipes and structures, in this case I've just got pipes. And the structures, I'm going to remove these. I don't want those, just want pipe reports. If we had both structures and pipes in consideration, we could have those go to separate tabs, separate sheets in Excel, or we could have them combined on one, basically in single order here. So this is about the exporting. The tabs up here are just different windows for you to view your data within. So let's go and export this. I've seen a couple questions come in. I'm just going to finish this export, and then we'll address some of those questions. So we're going to do a create new sheet. Prompts me the output spreadsheet file already exists. That's because I had created a new one when I went to path to it here. I'm going to say yes, write those changes, and it's going to go ahead and open the Excel file for me. And auto size these columns. Everything writes out here. Now we just told it to create a new sheet, so there's just some default formatting that an empty Excel file takes on. Okay, but it's as simple as that. We can dump this stuff out. Now many of you are going to have Excel templates that are set up already. So for example, let's build this like it was our template. Let's delete that tab, and maybe this is called pipe report. And maybe I've got some other information above the actual data here, right? It's title of the report, it's your company name, it's date, and different information like that. Maybe there's an empty column over here, right? So the data that you want to write is going to start, right here in B7. Let's take this. Let's do a few things. Let's format things the way we want. So let's center things. Maybe these cells up here are larger, right? So you're going to have specially formatted report templates like this. The beauty of Pipe Planner is it will read those existing sheets and only write to the area of that sheet that you want it to. So let's clear those out of here. But before we do that, one other thing, let's make sure all of these numerical values are at the precision level I want. Because Pipe Planner is just going to write the values out. It's not going to take the formatting. So all the formatting that you have in your Excel template will hold. Okay. Let's clear that out. And we can even put like a little starter thing there. Now you can have your own headers and not write headers from Pipe Planner, or you can just have it dump all the headers out here. I want to give myself a little piece of text so I know what cell to start it in. And I'll show you how that works. You can either remember that B7 is the starting cell, or there's a visual way to do this. So let's close out of this. We're back here on our report. And now instead of create new sheet, I'm going to choose write to existing sheet. Now right away, it read that Excel file. It found that there was a tab in there called pipe report. We'll choose that. Now I could just type P7, or maybe you don't remember, so you just choose the browse button. It gives you a little preview of the text, the data in that Excel template already. There was my handy start cell. And hit OK, and that was B7. Now here's that option. I could uncheck the headers, include headers option if I wanted to keep my own headers, or if I like the headers here. And by the way, these are just the names of the parameters right in Civil 3D. Okay, so you don't have to use those. you could write just the data out and have your own formatted headers in Excel. But we're going to include the headers. I'm going to click export. Again, it says it exists. Do I want to overwrite that file? Excuse me, it's not overwriting the file, it's writing to the file. So I'll hit yes to that. And here is that new set of data coming out. It populated to here. And it stuck with the formatting I had in place here. Now there's other options. I'm not gonna go through how to use Excel here, but we could have one tab that's like, it could be the raw data, right? And maybe we want to dump all of our data here. And then on this tab, we just simply make a reference, to that other sheet, right? Something like that. And then we pull all that data in. Now, once you're in Excel, obviously, that's where we can do all sorts, perhaps summing our different lengths of pipes at different depths, okay? You can have all of this stuff in here, formulas, title bars, all that kind of stuff. All that Pipe Planner is going to do is write data to those cells. So basically, the size of your table in here, that's what's going to write to Excel. And if you have include headers on, right there, that's your starting cell. If you don't, your starting cell is right there. So how you assemble this stuff, whatever order you want, again, it's just adding the properties to the order that you want. You can also choose to move this stuff around after the fact. I could highlight these two and say move columns right. Now those are over there. It's very easy. We can control at a detail level, moving rows around. I can insert empty rows and columns, what have you. So lots of control on how this looks. And basically, once you get it set the way you want, you can just save out a template for all the different reporting and tabulation options that you might want. All right, so one question that came in was, are we able to calculate trench backfill quantities with this? No, Pipe Planner is not calculating those trenches with those excavation slopes, one-to-one slopes, whatever it might be, from that trench. It is something I have on the list to add to this because I know that's kind of a pain. A lot of people are out there doing it with corridors, a variety of other options. I have seen people starting to use our auto grader tool for building out some trench calculations. If you're not familiar with this, this is feature line automation. Takes your standard feature lines. You can do simple things like daylighting to a surface, right? So you'd have some kind of feature line at the bottom of your pipe. You could offset a couple of units left and right and then target up to your surface to generate those trench quantities. So Pipe Planner does not work with and analyze surfaces, but like I said, it's one of the things we've got on the list to make some of those calculations because wouldn't even necessarily need the surfaces to generate the stuff. So certainly something we have on the list. So another question came in, is there a property option for pipe capacity and pipe velocity? If we could see them all in one place, we can make changes to the pipe right away without a design sheet. I don't want to show it in detail here, but the things like pipe velocity and capacity can certainly be calculated right in here. We can insert columns in here. We can generate formulas, okay? So our flow calculations and velocity calculations can be done right in here. Or we can go to an Excel sheet if you want, and then you can calculate that stuff there, make pipe size changes, and then sync it back to Civil 3D to update. You can do it in either place. So yeah, we don't have it as a property over here, but we give you the option to use formulas to calculate things like velocity and flow and so on. So absolutely, all the input parameters you need for calculating those values though. So capacity, right? We want to know about slope. We want to know about diameter, right? We want the cross-sectional area. All that information is in here. So anything you see in your pipe and structure properties can be pulled from this table right here. Question about undo and redo within a tool, much like the undo command in Civil 3D. So there isn't an undo or redo right in here. And let me explain a little bit. If you added a property, for example, and you wanted to remove it, you can simply do that, right? Remove column. Same with parts, okay? The point I want to make is that everything we're working on right here is I bring properties in and parts in. We're not writing anything to the drawing. Once you write to the drawing, right, like I make some name changes or description changes, and I click apply or OK, it will be part of your standard undo operations in Civil 3D. So if you just wrote a whole renaming of your parts to the drawing and you didn't want to do that, you use your standard undo command. The other tool I mentioned, the import spreadsheet function, it works the reverse. You simply browse out to an Excel file, choose the sheets you want to import, and it'll flag things that need to be updated, or if there isn't a match for those part IDs, it'll flag that as well. So that is pipe depth reports. Somebody might be thinking, well, Brian, I show my reports in this way or that way. A lot of that flexibility, like a lot of that work can be done post Civil 3D in Excel. Calculate, summing up values like this, calculating an average depth, you name it. A couple of other things we have on the list to add here is, maybe we don't want ranges. You just want to specify perhaps a threshold value, right? So we're going to have some different calculated fields in here. Pretty much all the data you need comes out here now, but we're just going to make it a bit more convenient as we're always adding to our tools, making new features in them. So you Pipe Planner users, you're going to see more calculated fields appear in your property list here. So lots of cool stuff coming your way on that. So other questions you guys might have, type them into the system. Kind of a quick webcast today. I just wanted to show you how quick and easy it is to make pipe depth reports in Pipe Planner. And to go out to Excel with those reports. So somebody might be wondering, how do I get my hands on this? Okay, it's part of the Sim Project Suite. That's what I was using right up here, my ribbon. This is the Sim Project Suite. It has many different tools in it, not just for pipes, but for survey, grading, corridors, labeling, all sorts of things. You can go to CTC Software, you can get a free trial, and there's purchase options explained there as well. There's standalone and network licensing with this stuff. And all of our tools come with full live tech support from our partners, as well as a detailed help library. A lot of you who are new to some of the CTC tools, you might launch this and go, oh man, so Brian talked about it in that webcast, but I don't remember how to use it, okay? There's a user guide right here. There's help videos right here. And if you need, you click on the support button and it'll get you in touch with technical support. Thanks everyone for your time. You have a wonderful day and we will see you next time.